Record. All right, there we go. It's officially recording. So I'm Ken Sylvia. I'm the executive director of Youth for Christ, and this is Kerri. And how do you actually say your last name?
Pomarolli, like ravioli.
And so I'm going to assume you're Italian.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So we were just talking about great places to eat in Modesto,
Yes.
and how you guys enjoy visiting uh, all those sort of hole in the wall type places.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
So
excited. I've done shows in Modesto before. I've been doing comedy for 20 years. So when you've been doing comedy this long, there's no town that you haven't like driven up the coast of California, Visalia, every little hole in the wall. And I only remember towns by their food. So I'll be like, that was the place with the burger and it had the mayonnaise and the statue in front. So I'm bringing my teenage daughter. So if you guys want to send in, find me on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, send in some of your favorites. Um, when I went to Canada recently, I was like, bring me Canadian snacks. And I walked on stage and people had thrown all these like bags of Canadian chips or Canadian candies, but they don't use chemicals. So their candy tastes like broken dreams.
okay,
It's
so
horrible.
you're from Michigan.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so there a buddy of mine in Youth for Christ who grew up in the Michigan area. There's a special kind of chip that you can only find in that area, but I can't remember the brand name of it. But like he literally drove just to go buy these
I
chips.
mean, yeah, now you got to find out for me. There's a couple. I mean, we invented Domino's Pizza. Not that I'm bragging about that. We invented Tubby Subs. There's a place called Olga's. Like when I go back to Michigan, I'm on a hunt. Like I'm 5 days in menu planning with Detroit food. We invented the Coney Island. People don't really understand what a Coney Island hot dog is. It's not a hot dog with chili. It's a hot dog with Coney sauce. So yeah, there's definitely Michigan centric food, like California In and Out. People drive from Texas to get In and Out.
I will
It's
also
crazy.
say the thing about California that I love is I've been in a number of different states. I love our Mexican food here.
Yeah, dude, we
There's not
rock.
a burrito I've ever had where I'm like, eh. I love our
No,
burritos.
I'll put our street tacos up there. And I don't know about I live in Northern Cal and I haven't found some Northern Cal spots yet that I love. But when I was in LA, uh, if it has a B rating, I'm still gonna eat there and it's gonna be even better. Like B is like, I'm fine. I don't care if it's fancy. I want the burrito to like soak through the napkin. You know what I mean? I just want it to be so heavy I can't lift it.
Okay, he said it's called Better Made chips.
Better meat. Oh yeah, yeah, the blue bag. Tell him I know. I know.
Blue
I know.
bag. Okay.
Well, they have different colors. The salt and vinegar. The salt. Oh, yellow bag. It's the yellow bag. I ask him. I bet you it's a yellow bag. Ask him if it's a yellow bag. And they're really thin.
Yes, that's one of the things he loves about them. So, okay, so you were telling me that you've been involved in Youth for Christ in the past, like a big proponent of it. Obviously,
Mhm.
it's the Youth for Christ show. Thank you, by the
Yeah,
way,
yeah.
for joining along. But can you just talk a little bit about your past
Well, I've just been
experience?
doing, fundraisers for Youth for Christ before I even had kids. I'm a product of people coming into secular schooling environments. It wasn't Youth for Christ per se. It was like more of a campus crusade thing. But I have a story about that, which I will share live at the show, and just how, they brought snacks, and that's why I went. I was like, there's snacks. I'm going to go to this girl's Bible study,
Okay,
and yeah,
so actually, that's how I got involved with Youth for Christ as well. I had just become a Christian. I had no clue what it meant. And
right,
my youth pastor was like, "Hey, you should come to this leadership thing," and I was like, "I'm not going to do signs and pom poms. That's dumb." Like,
right, right, right,
no.
right.
And he's like, "Dude, there's food and girls," and I was like, "You lead with that." Like, I'm a teenage boy.
Yeah.
So yeah, they had pizza, and I was like, "This is great. I love this."
Feed them and they will come.
Yes.
Exactly. And
So
so, that was she came to my sorority house in college. I had other, I went in and out of Christian school, but the real life changing, they got me later. I got to be honest. Like my journey was a cumulative journey of people sewing into my life. But this girl was like, I'm gonna come to your sorority house on Wednesdays at 8 o'clock. And I'm like, cool. I'm kind of old. We'd watch Melrose Place after she left and then go to some party. This is back when you'd go to a party at 11 p.m. because you were insane and you were like 19 and you would leave the house at 11 p.m. But the funny story, and I'll share more details, is that years later, I'm now a youth speaker for Youth for Christ, and she was at one of the conventions, and
No
we've
way.
become friends. And I was least likely candidate. Do you know what I mean? Like I was kind of just munching on chips and being like, when is this hour up so I can go do my evangelism at the fraternity house? So like I'm cool, but I was least like, and I would say like so into the weird ones because the weird ones are the ones that'll make a difference if you let them, right? Yeah, we can't be normal doing ministry. So I come from a Catholic dad and a Presbyterian mom and went to Dutch Christian Reform School and just kind of was like very Catholic in high school and college. We go to mass, we pay our dues, and we go to the buffet. And like I had known the Bible, but it was really people that came into my life uh, in environments that were not a Sunday morning that got me to Christ. I mean, fully surrendered to Christ.
So it sounds like, I mean, one of Youth for Christ's mottos is give life to your story and reaching youth at pivotal moments. So what was like a pivotal moment in your campus crusade, right? So that would have been the college
Yeah.
era. So what was like a pivotal, like what do you think clicked where it became more of a religious rhythm or religious pattern and became more of a personal, okay, there's something here.
She invited me to see. Here's the thing: when you throw it all at the kids at one time, they'll freak out. I went to a Campus Crusade meeting, and they were waving their hands in the air, and I'm like, "This is a cult. Like, don't drink the Kool-Aid, right?" Because they freaked me out. Now I would go over to the Beta Fraternity House and walk like an Egyptian, but I was like, "This is freaky." So a year into it, I went to a Christian conference that she recommended. Now I'm gonna be honest: there was a boy in that city that I want to go see in Missouri, but hey, so I go to this conference and I'm in the worship and this girl sharing her testimony, another girl my age, and I'm bawling my eyes out having this Holy Spirit experience because I'm in the atmosphere and my heart was ready for it. I had been prepped with these Bible studies. I had been prepped with prayer. She didn't throw me to the wolves like day one. And it was in those moments that I remember changing. Like I remember going on a date with this poor college guy. He's like, "What has gotten into you? Why are you acting so weird?" And I was like, "I don't know. I think I love Jesus." And he's like, "Okay." Now, here's the joke with that story. Years later, I ended up leading that guy to Christ after he was engaged to somebody else. Right? So
Wow.
crazy, crazy. But just having those moments and her speaking my language and some of the things I didn't understand. Like she got engaged at the time when I was in college. Her name was Robin. She's like, "He's great." We're like, "Cool. What kind of car does he drive?" Or all those important questions. And she's like, "He's so godly." And we're like, "Hella?" She's like, "He's so godly." And years later, I'm like, "Oh, I understand what that means now." I had no clue, nor did I care like about your godly fiance. And then now I've got two daughters. I was like, but I will shove as much Jesus into you and whoever you're dating till the day you die, like so.
That's a fascinating like point though, because my wife and I talk about this all the time of, you know, you have kids and all of a sudden you're like, your whole perspective changes on expectations, desires for your own kids, like even things that I thought would be fine 5 years ago or 10 years ago. I'm like, oh my gosh, never again. Like,
And I don't know about you or when you found Christ, but what my 18-year-old is doing today is not what I was doing when I was 18. Like she's going on 3 mission trips. She got her boyfriend a Bible for Christmas. And I was
that's
like, I got
awesome.
my boyfriend like Dracar cologne, and so it's just, and it's like we up the ante. Like, and she's like, "It's never good enough for you. I'm never going to be Christian." I'm like, "You're right. I'm going to keep pushing." But I have to laugh because she knows I wasn't necessarily doing those things. So it's kind of finding that balance. But I think we need to up the ante for the next generation. You know what I mean? Like, why set the standard low? I always say about those parents that try to be like cool mom, like, and they exist all the time. Like, "Oh yeah, I let my kids drink in my house, it's just all this stuff." You're not gaining anything from
Me
that.
too. They can
I'm
drink
the mean
water,
mom.
they can drink juice or milk. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, I am angry. I'm mean. Call me mean. You didn't get to go to the movies in sixth grade by yourself. You're not allowed to be alone I got trackers in her teeth, like whatever. I was like, She's like, Ma, I have literally the life thing on her phone. I know where she is at all times.
Okay.
I feel sorry for these kids. They can't even like do the things. I was joke. I was in the woods somewhere in Michigan. Right? Like I was at some bonfire. My parents are like, "Oh, you're at a movie," but it's like they really are very. It's I hate to say I don't want to be a helicopter mom, but there's that trust. Like my kid's 18 now, and I'm just like I cannot make these decisions for you, but we have really open dialogues. And the fact that she's telling me last night, oh, I came home, I was talking to a friend and, I was praying for this girl. I'm like, oh, wow, that's amazing. I wasn't having those conversations. Those words didn't come out of my mouth at
Well, and that's
18.
kind of like a generational shift too of like back in the day, you just didn't talk about stuff. It was like everything was off limits. You just go to work, go to school, go to church,
You're
whatever,
fine. Holy
come
Spirit,
home.
fine. You're fine. Right. We're
Yeah,
fine.
exactly. And now it's like even like my niece and my sister-in-law, they have great conversations together, right? Like even my wife and I, we talk about with our daughter who is 3 going on 13.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. Buffalo.
like even with her processing, okay, like why did you do this and what do you feel and what's right and wrong? And I didn't have those conversations. I'm not even like old. Like it
And
just
then my daughter will
generational
remind
shift.
you to the dying day that I hit her with a wooden spoon once. I don't remember this action happening. And she was like, yeah, and the spoon broke. I was like, you probably deserved it. So I still have some OG mom in me, but I am having like it's not even it's like the movies that we're watching are so we're just watching a movie and there's like all this language. And my youngest daughter and I have this thing where it's like she's like, oh, bad word, mom. I'm like, yeah, if you don't say bad word when they said a bad word, I know it's just going by you and it's getting in your psyche. Do you know what I mean? So it's everywhere. And you can't shelter them and say we're only going to watch Veggie Tales forever. So it's the
Yeah.
conversations that I never, oh my gosh. And like these kids know so much. They're so in some ways sheltered, but in some ways they know so much sexually, drugs, like it's scary. And if
Yeah.
you're in the public schools, let's get real. Like they just know sometimes she's like, oh, you don't know what that is, mom. I was like, I don't even need to know. Like just by the sound of that word,
I will
I
say
don't
though,
want you to tell me
I will
what.
say though, even I mean, hey, we got some great Christian schools in our area, so I'm not dissing anybody.
Yeah.
But I will say, even some of the kids at the
Oh,
Christian schools,
listen, bro.
kids are
They're worse.
kids, and especially
They're
with
worse.
smartphones, like they have access to everything, and it's like I was so grateful. I'm so grateful that I'm old enough. I remember it wasn't until I was almost 18 that I got the Nokia phone.
The flip,
That,
the flip.
no, like the actual
Mine was a flip.
box, like the actual
Yeah.
giant phone.
Yeah. With the
And the
big cord.
only, yeah, and the only thing that you could play on that game was the snake game. And I would be in the back of one of my classes trying to get
Wow.
my snake
I
score.
mean, look, I was so old. We called it a car phone when I was in high school. It was in the car, like,
Oh yeah,
and then we had
my
beep
dad and my mom had a car
90s.
phone.
I moved to LA in the late 90s and we had pagers, like drug dealers. But like, it's just so funny because the Christian kids and my daughter homeschools now, she was so horrified by the Christian high school behavior that she's like, it's not worth the money to pay to go to this school. Just to be honest, like
Yeah,
it was worse. So, we're evangelizing everywhere. But if you're listening to this, parents, don't sit back and think because your kid's in a Christian school that they're getting the same evangelization that, evangelization that Youth for Christ is giving. No way. Just don't pretend, especially at the high school level.
well, and I think the other thing too is, and again, I'm making a sweeping generalization here. There are cultural contexts where it pays and we reward if you act the right way on the outside and then secretly when no one knows what's happening, like right, like but we reward act right.
And
And
my daughter will call out the hypocrisy. Like she went to 3 youth groups before she found the youth group that she likes because she was like, oh, the kids in the parking lot are not the same kids on the worship stage, mom. And I was like, point taken,
so I
and
was,
so
I don't know about you when you came to Christ, but I was the squirrely kid who
yeah.
I was always saying something dumb, but my heart was like, no one told me there were rules in church, right? Like I started going to church. I ran in church one time. Apparently, if you run in a church, that's a very, very big no-no. And I didn't know that, right? Like, and I make jokes and apparently there are certain jokes you just can't talk about in church, no matter how kind of joke it is.
Hey, I have made
I
a
got in a lot
career
of
out of
trouble.
telling those jokes, so you can,
Well, there you
apparently.
go. Well, see, but at least we're paying you to get in trouble. So
Well, I always say you pay me up front. So
well,
whatever
that's
I
true.
say, and then I go to I'm like, I'm not a pastor. You don't need to see me next week. I just go to the next town. So whatever I say, I say. But I always say when you hire me, I have a big mouth and I know how to ask for money. So, but I'm really excited. We're gonna have a great time. Is this something you've done? I know you had my friend Dustin Nickerson last year. Have you done this year after year, like
Okay,
every year?
so we had 2 or 3 years in a row. Of course, everyone remembers COVID and how wonderful it was. And so that took us out for a couple years. Life got crazy. And about 3 years ago, so that would have been 2024, one of our staff, Christy, she's always loved comedy shows. I have too, but her and I talked and was like, let's bring it back. I mean, worst case that happens, we make a little bit of money, and people have a great time. That's worst case. So let's try it. And it seemed to scratch an itch. In fact, there's some other nonprofits in the area who, after we brought it back, now they're doing comedy shows too, which I love. It's great because I
Okay, give him my number.
there you go. But no, this is our third year in a row bringing it back. And
Now,
honestly,
am I the first girl?
I don't.
I might be.
I think you are actually.
I know.
Don't quote me on that because
Well, listen, now you get DEI points.
Oh, there we go. See,
Yeah.
we are inclusive. That's good. Okay, so I have a couple questions for you if you have a few minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. You have been on Hallmark, Netflix, all the things, right? Okay, so my wife loves Hallmark. And for all the Hallmark ladies out there, as a man, I want to know, like, does somebody like look into the copy and paste? Because like a lot of the Hallmark's predictable, which my wife loves. She enjoys that. And I'm over here in the corner getting in trouble.
Like,
because I'm like,
so
watch what happens next.
Hallmark has more rules than the Catholic Church. Like, I'm a comedian, and when I write scripts for Hallmark and they're like, that's too funny, take it out. Oh, she's not carrying a baked goods. You could have a game where you get 1 point for every time she walks in with a plate of muffins. There's a puppy, a rainstorm, a snowstorm, somebody chopping wood. They need these things because of people like your wife. So I try to make them diverse and funny. So like my co-writer and I wrote a script and we put all the names of a band that we liked called New Edition from the 80s, and we named all our characters secretly from the New Edition band members. But it's like they do have a very strict lane. And then Candace Cameron, who I was on tour with, she's a friend of mine, she went over to another company that's doing Hallmark type movies. And the joke is they don't have budget. So if you notice there's a crowd scene and there's 3 people in that crowd, that's also the guy who owns the handy store and the pastor of the church. Like those same actors are in all the scenes, right?
Okay.
So it's budget, and if it's not broke, don't fix it. Now I try to get outside the box. I always try to be a little edgy with my scripts, and sometimes I get away with it and sometimes I don't. But it's comical, like the behind the scenes.
So you actually write then for Hallmark?
Yeah, I write for Hallmark. Yes.
Wow, that's so cool. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice. So out of all your different career comedy, television shows, movies, etc., what's like one of your favorite, like just best memories that you go back through the Rolodex of memories? Like what's one that you just really stands out to you?
So this is just like, I was in my garage yesterday pulling out like old pictures and going through stuff, and I found a letter from a 14-year-old girl, and she said, and it was so sweet. She said, I've always felt like a misfit. I've always felt out of the cool kids. And what you said, and this has got to be 15 years ago because it's an old letter. When people wrote real letters, not even email, what you said really changed me. And I feel like I could be more accepted. And thank you for sharing your personal testimony. And I love meeting fancy people, but when I can pray for somebody after a show, I mean, we could do a whole podcast on the miracles I've seen. I'm talking physical miracles of people being like, I was full of grief and now I just feel lighter. I was sick and now I'm well. I just can't even explain to you what happens off stage doing this ministry. I mean, right? So I would say seeing the supernatural power of God will never not blow my mind, just blow my mind. And all the fancy stuff is great too. And meeting John Travolta was really fun. And being on the Tonight Show and doing comedy sketches as Britney Spears and, just funny characters has been really fun as well. And meeting some, all that kind of stuff has been really fun. And I do love a good comedy club late at night where nobody knows me as a Christian. And I go up and do a set and I just make people laugh. That just brings me joy that I can do both sides of the fence.
How did you get, and is there a lot of crossover between your average television show, movie type thing and comedy? Is there a lot of crossover? How did you get into stand-up comedy?
Well, that's a total God thing. I was doing improv comedy with the thing called The Groundlings, which is where Will Ferrell and Sherry O'Terry and a lot of those guys started. Then I was doing Second City, which is originally where John Candy and Eugene Levy started. That was group. And then as I became more and more Christian, I was like, I don't want to do these scenes. Not that I was doing dirty stuff, but it was hard to stay clean in a group. Like they were always wanting to take it really edgy. And God totally gave me this idea to do stand-up. I never would have wanted to do that. But he was like, you write the jokes. If they're dirty, it's your fault. Right. So then when you're a stand-up comic, I ended up doing more solo stuff, more touring, less sitcoms, less acting, which is kind of something I felt like I had to lay back down to God and say, okay, I really love acting, but you want me to do this other thing that scares me. But that's where the opening of the doors were. And that's where the ministry was. And it wasn't in the acting. And I do act occasionally now, but I just felt like sometimes you got to make a left turn, with what God wants you to do.
Yeah. Well, we have a few minutes left. Is there, I don't know, anything you want to like plug or tell people to go visit you with?
Keep your eyes open because I have a really fun podcast coming out soon. And I'm very excited about that. I think it's going to come out in April and I'll break the news here. I'm doing it with another comedian and she's a woman friend of mine and it's called Inappropriate-ish. And it's
I love it.
Two women that are inappropriate enough not to get sued. And it's going to be faith and pop culture because when we talk on the phone and say the most inappropriate things that everyone else is thinking, and we're on YouTube at like 1:00 in the morning reading some, the older we get, the more we start to believe the conspiracy theories. And we're talking about, how do we stay Christian when the church is going to hell in a handbasket? And she's a theologist. She's a brilliant theologian. And I'm very touchy-feely, run all over the place. She is just definitely a different personality type. And we're going to just do this really fun comedy podcast, hopefully coming out in April. And I'm really excited about working with her again, because I think we need to laugh. And this isn't going to be an overtly in your face Christian every week topics, but I think that we're always, everything I do, I'm openly Christian about. Like, I don't hide that. So, and speaking of openly Christian, you got to watch Jelly Roll get his Grammy last night because he was all about Jesus on the Grammys. He was preaching a sermon on the Grammys last night.
I haven't seen it, so I'm sure it's on social media. Speaking of social media, where can people find you on all the different
if they just remember my name, KerriPom, KerriPom.com, Kerri Pom on Instagram, find me. I have a bad addiction to social media. So if you write me a note at an inappropriate hour, you'll probably hear from me. But anyways, but yeah, so I'm excited to be with you guys in March. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah. So Friday, March 6th at the State Theater. Doors open, I believe, at 6:30 or 7, with the show begins at 7:30. You can find our information at cvyouth.org. Go to events, click on the State Theater picture. It'll take you right to get tickets. But I'll end with actually two things. One, I love that you said you got to laugh. That's one of our mottos at Youth for Christ in our chapter here is you see some of the sketchiest, ugliest, most depressing things with kids and families. And I always say, like, you got to find humor. You got to find the silver lining or else you're going to just melt. And I can honestly say that in our office, if you walked in, you would think it's like a bunch of kids working together because we are always joking and laughing. And honestly, on a bad day, that's the only thing that really gets me through is knowing that, like, we can just laugh it out and it helps. I mean, the Bible says, laughter is good medicine. But before I end, you were saying you're also doing the Women of the Bible? No, what was
Oh,
that?
Real Housewives of the Bible, because we feel like they need a reality show. Martha and Mary,
Oh,
before
amen.
Jesus came to dinner, need a reality show. Mary and Elizabeth telling her she's pregnant with the Son of God. Somebody needed to record that.
And
But
where
I
can people
really
find that at?
felt, yeah. And I challenge people, bring your teenagers to this show, because I have a lot of teenagers. I make fun of boomers, Gen X, millennials, and Gen Zs equally. And it's a multi generational show. So if you want a night out with your 12, 13, 18-year olds, bring them,
I
because
love
we're
it.
going to make fun of everybody. Nobody is off limits. And I think it's one of these things where everybody can come together for a night of laughter and nobody's going to ride home offended. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Except Gen Z. I'm raising two Gen Zs and they're ridiculous. And I will go on record completely insane. But that's just me.
Okay, where can people find your Real Housewives of the Bible
It just
skits?
just put it in Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, The Real Housewives of the Bible. Yeah.
Love it. Kerri, thank you so much. We're looking forward to you. Also, Brent um, and Gloria are going to be there as well. So I'm really excited about the evening, and thank you for your time. If people want to check you out, go kerripom at .com or on the socials. And yeah, like you said, bring your teenager. So age appropriate, I would say probably 11 and 12 and up would be a safe age. It might be a little edgy for some of the younger ones, but I don't think anything's going to be way over the top and appropriate. So yeah, thank you again, and look forward to seeing all you guys March 6th. Take care.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Kerri. God bless.